दोस्तों, good morning. I'm going to discuss with you a topic which you will all like very much. And being a professional from the Air Force, I'm going to discuss which plane would be suitable for India. That is the Su-57, which is the Russian plane, or the F-35, which is the American plane. Of course, the Indians have already got the Rafale, but that is only a 4.5 generation fighter. It's not the latest one. It's not the stealth fighter. And for India, the choice is only between these two planes, the Su-57 and the F-35. Now, I'll not go into the technical data, which you can get from the net. I can display it here. It really doesn't serve any purpose. But basically, I think what you would be interested to know are the general capabilities of these fighters and politically how conducive it is for India to go in for any of these planes. Now, I will remind you one particular thing that India has ordered the Chinook Apache helicopter, attack helicopter from the United States. 22 helicopters have been delivered for the Indian Air Force, and the Army was to be also given one squadron of these planes, and 6 aircraft were contracted to be supplied to the Indian Army by the United States. Until date, more than 1 year has elapsed. This plane, for some reason or the other, has not been supplied to the Indian Army. It's an attack helicopter, perhaps the best in the world. So you can well imagine you contract a plane and it is not given to you. That's one point. Second point is the Indians had made the Tejas fighter, and this fighter plane had a good airframe which was made in India, but it needed an engine, so the Indians contracted General Electric for the engine. Now almost 2 years have elapsed, the engine is not coming and the aircraft is not flying. The same thing what happened when under Pandit Nehru, India had made the Hindustan Fighter 24, the HF-24, the Marut, where the engine was underpowered. There was an excellent airframe made by Dr. Kurtztank, who was from the Second World War days and the chief designer of Focke-Wulf. Unfortunately, the electric engine, the West refused to supply the engine because it's supposed to be a Mach 1 plane and it was just subsonic because we had to make do with an inferior Rolls-Royce engine. So whenever you buy any plane, you have to keep the supply chain in existence. Now, if I tell you about the capabilities generally, the F-35 is the most superior plane in the world. It is the best plane. It is the 5th generation stealth fighter. When I mean stealth fighter means it is a fighter that can evade the detection systems. That is very important. Because if a plane is going and it is detected and shot down, it has got no relevance. While the F-35 is a plane which will evade the detection systems. Now the Russian plane is also a stealth fighter, but it is not having the same capability as the F-35. But it is more maneuverable in the local combat area. But all the same, if you add both the planes together, the F-35 will be here and the Su will be here. So the Su is below, but the Russians have said they're going to upgrade the plane. Now that's something which have to be seen to believe when they upgrade it or don't upgrade it. They will upgrade it, of course, but it'll take some time. And in aviation technology, 1 year or 2 years is a very small period. Now India is also going in for a 5th generation fighter, but I'm afraid it's not likely to see the date till 2036. So you can well imagine how advanced Indian technology is, that we are 20 years behind the Americans and the Russians. The Chinese have also produced their own, I think it is the J-35 stealth fighter, but again it's a little inferior to the Russian plane and it's basically a copy of the Russian plane. So the question arises now, gentlemen, India definitely needs a fifth generation fighter because the Pakistanis are going to get the the Chinese fifth generation fighter. They've been promised 40 of these planes, and that means almost two squadrons, and they could play hell into the Indian system. Because India wouldn't be having a plane or the detection capability to detect such an aircraft. Whether it's a little below the F-35 or no is irrelevant. Now, as far as the F-35, gentlemen, I've told you it is the best in the world. And it has been given to a lot of countries like Israel, England, Japan. So many countries are using the F-35 and they've been using it almost for about 2 years. So it's a highly operational aircraft, but it costs a lot of money. I think it's one price of this is between 82 to $100 million. And America has made an offer of that plane of 100 planes to India. For America, it would be a feather in the cap to impact such a deal which will run into billions of dollars, and the aircraft industry will have a ball. The Russians have also offered a plane, and they have added a few lollipops along with it in the sense they said we'll allow you to make the plane in India under Modi's Atmanirbhar scheme, and India could accept that plane, and we'll upgrade it also. Now, this Atmanirbhar, gentlemen, is a lot of fob. I mean, it's got no relevance. Let me explain to you. When I was undergoing the Defense Services Staff College course, we were taken on a study tour to the Hindustan Aeronautics, which was that time manufacturing the Jaguar in India. Jaguar is an Anglo-French fighter bomber. It's a good plane, and in those days it served a big purpose. Now, gentlemen, this plane, we saw it being assembled in India, and then we had a conference with the chief engineer, and he very proudly told us, gentlemen, you're all officers from the defense forces. Let me tell you, 92% of the parts of this aircraft are made in India. Wonderful. We liked it very much. So I'm a little inquisitive man, so I asked the chief engineer, I said, sir, what about those 8% other parts? What happens to them? What if those parts don't come from England or France? He said they will come because it's contracted. I said that's not the point. Let's assume they don't come, then what happens? So he thought for a moment, he said, and said the aircraft will not fly. The aircraft will not fly. I repeat, the aircraft will not fly. That means those 8 parts are crucial. I asked him, why can't we duplicate those 8 parts? He said, we don't know the metallurgy of the material used. Until we know that, we can manufacture that plant. So, gentlemen, Atmanirbhar is like a Damocles sword, and you get a lot of thrill which we made in India, but the entire technology is never given to the Indians. It's only much later that the Russians gave the MiG technology to the Indians. And now, of course, the MiG is getting outdated, so you can have any technology you feel like from the Russians. So it's a very, very double-edged sword. You know that English broadsword? And there's one sword being carried here by the French cavalier, the musketeers, who were so glorious during the time of Louis XIV. So, gentlemen, Atmanirbhar is a lot of take it with a pinch of salt. Because now the plane which the Americans are going to give, is going to come with no strings. No strings in the sense, no technology will be transferred to India. You will have to take it as it is, and the Americans will come and maintain it. Now just imagine, Pakistan was given the F-16 fighters, I think almost 2.5 decades back. But the Pakis couldn't maintain that aircraft. They don't have the maintenance technical facilities. And the planes were almost lying on the ground. That is AOG, aircraft on ground. That is what was happening. And net result of all that was that the PF is greatly weakened. But now Biden and later Trump has decided to give $300 $97 million to Pakistan so that the American engineers can come and get the aircraft into the air. That means they start flying again once they give all the parts and all that. So let's say a plane which is with the Pakistan Air Force for 30 years, the Pakistanis can't maintain that aircraft because they don't have the technology. So it is the same thing with the Americans when they give the planes to India. And I don't think they're going to give any technology for the F-35 to India. And India does not have the capability to do reverse engineering. Now, what is reverse engineering? This is what the Chinese do. The Chinese took certain planes they bought from Russia, like the Su-57. So they began to dismantle it part by part. And that also needs a very high level of technology. That is reverse engineering. You dismantle the aircraft part by part, and then manufacture it yourself. It may not have the same capability as, say, the Russian plane, but it is very good and gives the Chinese a strength of confidence. That is how the Chinese have made the J7 and 17, which they are using, which are copies of the Russian planes. They have done reverse engineering and they are manufacturing them and they are selling them all over the world. And they have given to Pakistan also. To say that it's an inferior plane or Chennai and all that is all bull. In fact, it gives a lot of confidence to the Chinese, and China is not dependent on any country. We never had that policy, and secondly, we didn't have that technology also. Technologically, we are way behind, say, America, China, or Russia. You can well imagine that if India is going to produce their first fifth generation fighter in 2036, where is our technology when the Americans have had the F-35 operation for the past 2 years? The Russian Su-57 is on, and so is the Chinese fighter. India does not even have a plane made in India capable to match the Rafale. That's how we went with the French, and now I'm told the French are very reluctant to transfer any technology to India. And why should any country give you technology? Let me ask. And you are all intelligent people. Why should they give it? Why should they kill the cow which is giving the milk? So you ask for a plane, they give it to you, you want to maintain it, you go back to them, ask for that. India had a relationship with the French. We had got the Mirage, but we didn't get any technology from them. And if something is required, the French come back. And much earlier, we had the Oregon, the Tufani, were used by the Indian Air Force almost 5 decades back. India has got an association with the French aircraft industry, much older than the Russian industry, but the French never gave any technology to India. Now that is the crucial point. Why should any country give you technology? And just talking about Atam Nirbhar and try to fool the Indian public is we are making it in India and all that. I'll give you the example of the Jaguar, and I think Atam Nirbhar has got no meaning. Now let's forget that part out. So if the Russians give you Su-57 and you say, okay, they say you start making the parts here and don't tell you the crucial 5% or 6% parts, the plane will never fly. While the Americans are more blunt, they won't give you anything. You take the plane as it is, use it, and whenever there's a problem, we'll come back and certify you. But the American planes politically always come with a rider. Now, it is up to you whether you follow the rider or no, but American can always tighten the screws. Now, for example, they have given this fighter plane, that is the F-16, to Pakistan, and it's now going to be repaired, but come with the rider, you won't use it against India. You won't use it against India. Whether you use it, and at that time, the Americans may make a noise here and there, but they can always tighten the screw. That means the screwdriver is with them. And we do not know if they give the F-35 to India, what is the restriction they may put. They could put a restriction not to be used against Pakistan, use it only against China. So we do not know. So political strings are part of the game, and it is the country which is supplying the aircraft, and they are entitled to make the political strings. Why not? They are the ones who are giving you the weapons, and they will do it. Now I'm giving you a relative picture of how the aircraft industry functions. Now, India has got a more open relationship with the Russians. I've also given the example of the Chinook helicopter, the Apache, and that Apache 6 was to fly to the Indian Army. They haven't come for the last 1 year. The army is just sitting, waiting for the helicopters to come. And they are very good gunships, the best in the world. And perhaps India would have been better off instead of going for the American Apache if they'd gone for the French, for the Russian planes, which are very good also. Now, within limits, I think the Su-57 is a very good plane. I can tell you, as I told you, it doesn't match the F-35, which is the best in the world. And if India can get it and becomes always on the right side of the Americans, because then you don't have any what is called your strategic independence, which Jaishankar is talking about, because we must understand, and I think my listeners will understand, there's nothing like strategic independence until you make your own weapons yourself. If you're going to make a rifle in India, the technology is coming from Russia for the latest Kalashnikov rifle. What the hell? What are you talking of strategic independence? Strategic independence means when you have your own weaponry, you can exercise your options over the world. And that is why the American president to India, ambassador to India, the last one, he had said, India talks of strategic independence, but where is strategic independence? There's nothing like strategic independence in the modern world. Look at England. It's a dependent power over the United States. And it's talking of strategic independence. It wanted to go and intervene and fight in Ukraine, and you can't do it because the teeth have been pulled out, and the British are just a shell power, without having any teeth. And so they're just sitting quietly behind now. You can't do it. So you have to be on the side of the Americans always. If you buy the F-35 and 100 planes is a very big number, and they can tilt the battle against China. That is one thing is very clear. So, but the question is, what is India going to buy? The best is that India goes in for its own technology, which they should have done years back. But we are 75 years behind time, despite the fact that in 1947 we were way ahead of China. India had the aircraft factory, mind you, at that time. Hindustan Aeronautics was there and it was operational during World War II when the Americans C-47 planes were being serviced there and they were being used for supplies to China. They flew over the hump. That means they flew over the Himalayas from the bases in Assam, like Kumbhgram, and into hinterland of China with the supplies. And so many pilots died flying over the Himalayas. The planes were serviced by HAL. So India had the start. We could have gone ahead with it. Nehru got the HF-24 made, but the Indians should have done reverse engineering and taken the engines from somewhere. In 61, if you remember, India's Krishna Menon was scouting for a Mach 2 fighter, and India opted to buy the British Lightning. I think it's the Lightning P3. It's a wonderful plane at that time. Or the F-104, the American Starfighter. The British and the Americans refused to give India, and that is how India went in for the MiG-21. And it's been a very versatile plane, good plane, and even now in service in the Indian Air Force. The last variant of the MiG-21, that the MiG-21 BIS, is still in service in the Indian Air Force. And it's a wonderful plane. I had a strong, long association with it. Now coming down to these two planes again, gentlemen, obviously the readers are very clear that they would like which plane India should buy. The only thing is, India is facing what is called the Hobson's choice. That means you got no really choice. You just keep making some choices here and there. And politics is what matters. You want to win the election in India. It's immaterial what happens. So Nehru also was interested only in just winning elections. He was not interested in making India a great power. He didn't know what's a great power. Even Indira Gandhi, I think he did nothing, concentrated only on getting the 6 killed, which is very bad. Narasimha Rao, I mean, at that time the economy was so bad, nothing could be done. He was a far-thinking man, but this has got no relevance when you don't have strategic independence. So, gentlemen, now the question arises: the Su-57 has got very less strings. You can be very sure if you buy the Su-57, Russians will put no strings. You can use it against Pakistan, China, anywhere in the world. But the Americans may have. Number one. Number two, the Americans not going to give you any technology whatsoever, but the Russians will transfer significant technology to India. But is that relevant for India? I don't think it's relevant at all getting that technology when the crucial fact, the crucial points, the crucial parts, they will not be told to India. I don't think they're going to tell for the Su-57. They might have told about the Pick 21 that time, 6 decades back, but they will go do it now. I'm pretty certain about it. Even if they make an assembly line in India, their engineers will be working here and the parts will come from Russia and they'll fit it here. So if we take out the political considerations that India is a friend of China and all, definitely the F-35 would be the better bet for India. I think if India wishes to become a world power, you will have to decide, as I said earlier, like Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall and had a great fall. If Narendra Modi is going to keep sitting on the wall, not deciding between Russia and America, he's going to have a fall. I've repeatedly said it. I've also discussed his horoscope and told you that he's got the 12th house, which is known as the Napoleonic house. And being an amateur or astrologer, this means one thing, great heights and then abrupt fall. That's what happened to Napoleon. Well, this is not the topic of this video. We are only going to discuss whether India should go in for the F-35 or the Su-57. Considering the fact that there's very little chance of a war, I would say the best thing is not to buy any of these two planes. Go in for more of the Rafales, because we're using those. Go in for more of the Su planes, the MiG-29, the Su-31. Go in for these. They are pretty good planes and will serve their purpose in a war. But if you are really keen that you must have the best technology to face China or something like that, then I would say the F-35 would be the better bet. Number one, it's the best plane that the Americans give you a technology you know, but the Indians can, make use of the plane, learn some nuances about it. HAL could make some parts here and then by going through. But at the same time, politically, India will have to be on the side of the United States. So if India agrees to be on the side of the United States, and that is the policy, I think, of the Indian government to be friendly with China, with America, then the Su-35 would any day be the better bet than the Russian plane. Because Russia, I don't know whether they will to sustain the supply of the planes also. The Russian war economy has been geared up for the battle in Ukraine. And though there's going to be a ceasefire, it'll take them at least 10 years to come back to normal. And then there may be a problem of supply because, as you know, the Indians had contracted for the S-400 missile, this super system to intercept enemy aircraft. But all the units have not been supplied to India and the delivery is already 2 years behind time from Russia. So we got to be careful about it because Russia may not be able to supply you the Su-57, even the advanced version which they are promising. So I would write off the Su-57 on that ground because it will be the same thing like the Tejas. You have the Tejas flame here and the plane can't fly. Russians will take some time to give those planes to you. America can always, of course, tighten the screw. But at the same time, the Americans have given 22 planes to the Indian Air Force. That is the Chinook helicopter, the Apache gunship has been 22 have been given. They delayed 6 to the Indian Army. So America does honor its commitments. And if that is the case, I think we should go in for the F-35, which is the better plane, the best in the world. And of course, politically, we'll have to be aligned with America. I think it's in India's interest because if India has to fight China at some stage, You can't fight it without American support. India on its own is a generation behind China. To say that we can match China and all that is a lot of bull, because we had our chances in 47 and 50 when we were way ahead of China. But we had a great leader, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, and he frittered away all that advantage. It was like the god Kuber frittering away the wealth which is given to you. India had the best army in the world, in Asia at least. At the end of the Second World War in 45, Japan had been destroyed. China was facing a civil war. And that was the time to take up the leadership of Asia, which Nehru never did. He didn't know anything about strategic things. All he was knowing was ahimsa and fast unto death and things like that. That's a very sad comment I have to make. But gentlemen, please bear this in mind. I think I will close now. I had a long discussion on the relative merits and demerits, both political and otherwise, of these planes which are on offer to India. And I would say in one line, if India has to go in for a plane, let's go in for the F-35 with all the strings attached. Technology will not come, but that's okay. Atmanirbhar's got no relevance really till you make your own plane. Goodbye, gentlemen. I hope you like this video. Please share it with your friends, and I'll come back for more. In the meanwhile, I'll say goodbye, God bless, and Jai Hind.